First things first, as I mentioned before, food. So everything we put into our bodies is fucking important. So sugar, etc., 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 and everything that is basically shown here. So for example, stimulus and response also has to do with food, right? So food is super important to understand. What is good food? What is bad food? Etc. Bread is really bad for you, and the reason being is because when you put bread into your body, what it is chole, something something carbs. I think it's called in English like
Yeah,
that.
it's carbs.
Okay, cool.
It's carbs.
Then in regards to the carbs, that's basically the thing that's super super important when it comes down to your energy levels, right? So with your energy levels, what happens is when you consume carbs, insulin is made, and then after that is made, your kind of like peak of energy kind of goes like in a way of, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but like right, it goes like in a big spike and then it crashes down, and that's why a lot of people have like these big afternoon slumps where they don't feel productive, because at the end of the day they basically set themselves up for failure. So at the beginning of your day, you shouldn't eat anything till 1 p.m. or 12, somewhere around that time. Then the first meal you have, so during the afternoon, your meal can only consist of fat and egg whites, right? So let's see. Mm, I'll actually write it down for you as well. Sorry, not egg whites, protein. Protein and fat in afternoon, and then nothing in morning. No coffee, no whatever, no fruit, nothing. Um, you can drink a little bit of water, although I wouldn't recommend it. And just stay focused in the morning, because your body is still really pure in regards to what it can consume and little things like that. Then the 10, 3, 2, 1 rule for the evening times, right? Then the evening times, carbs are good for evening. Then the 10, 3, 2, 1 rule is basically like, as I explained before, 10 caffeine, right? 10 hours before you go to bed, no caffeine. 3 hours before you go to bed, 3 is food, no food. And then 2 is drink. And then 1 is screens. It's really important that you turn off everything, but also screens in terms of light. So this is super important. And then especially with food, it comes down to the same thing as we talked about before with stress factors, HRV, heart rate variability, where it's really important that you understand what kind of stress factors you have right now in your life. Stress factors are, for example, going to the gym, consuming certain foods, drinking caffeine, doing an ice bath, cold shower, feeling stress in work, right? Having to do a lot of things back to back to back, having to do a lot of to-dos, that's also a stress factor, right? So it's all about like having the combination of certain factors, but also one factor being more than the other. So decreasing the amount of stress you have in one factor and increasing it in another, right? So let's say you have a really hard deadline to hit in the next week, then dial down the kind of super super hard workouts you do, dial down the cold showers you do, right? Because it comes down to your HRV, and this is literally all proven. Like, this is all proven, right? It's all based on scientific research. So at the end of the day, your mentality with like, oh well, I gotta go hard every day and read 10 million pages and do this and do that and do that. No, it creates only more stress on your body to not be able to focus on the core things you want to do in that day. Literally. I've literally had the most output I've ever had in the last month this morning in literally 3 hours. 3 hours. So imagine you have 10 times more focus throughout the day and energy to be able to set appointments, do the DMs, post content, make beats, whatever it is, right? Everything. So imagine that. What will you give up for that? Well, a lot, because you can basically do 10 times more in the same amount of time, right? So this is basically all to do with food. Then it can go a lot deeper in here as well, but I'm gonna go to this one. Distractions and attention. Your attention is literally the gold. If you don't like see this as your goal throughout the day, you're basically done for, because your attention is required everywhere, right? So forms of attention are people texting you, to-dos, social media, TikTok, videos, music, everything that releases some sort of form of dopamine, right? So let me think of more. TikTok, social media, videos, texting you, to-dos, little icons, tabs being open. So little icons, notifications, I mean. So these little red dots on your phone, for example, like really small below an app, right? So for example, your Gmail being completely full. So the goal with your attention is that you actually realize how important this is. I literally haven't listened to a single piece of music this day. I haven't consumed a single piece of content. I've not watched a single YouTube video. Nothing. Zero. And the fun fact is, because my sleep is good, because other things are really good, I can easily put my attention more focused towards areas I know it needs to be focused into. So what a lot of people can't do is they can't put their attention into certain things, right? And either it's a lack of other things in different areas, for example, sleep, structure, understanding your chronotype, DNA and blood test. Chronotype is literally just a test, a quiz you can do online. And your chronotype basically means the type of person you are in regards to sleep. So for example, I'm a bear, and bears tend to not be night owls, so we need structure. We need to quit working at 8, 9, 10 p.m. because otherwise I can't perform the same tomorrow. So let's say I've never known that, right? So let's say we bring it all the way back to years ago, right? I've literally been working like crazy since I was pretty young, right? So how it works is it's literally the same with cocaine or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is, right? Really, really good example is alcohol. You drink alcohol and then the next day you feel the hangover. You still feel the alcohol in your body, right? So at the end of the day, it's the after effect that creates it, right? So you spending time on social media, on TikTok, right? Getting that dopamine only creates that vague feeling in your head that you are vague, you aren't focused, whatever. That creates it only for a short term. But the long-term effect is a lot more dramatic. Same with alcohol. If you become drunk every single weekend or whatever, or every single week, it's going to have an impact on your liver, right? So the same thing with social media, same thing with your attention, same thing with your distractions, right? If you can't control your distractions or attention, you're literally done for. So the goal here is, especially with attention, is understanding where are you putting your attention into. Is it listening to music every single day, right? If you go for a run, if you go to the gym, if you do this, if you do that, right? All these little things that basically require your attention and keep you away from doing one thing, it's so important. And let's say, right, for me, for example, with the chronotype, coming back to the topic, if I didn't know that I function best when I quit working at 8, 7 p.m. late in the evening, and then quit working, completely wind down, don't do anything, just chill. If I, let's say, didn't know that, which I didn't for the last years, imagine the kind of hangover period it's going to create for me to be able to get to the real productivity. I'm so far away of the real productivity that I can imagine because I've always been doing it this way. I've always believed this was the way that it worked, right? Because I never knew there was something else, right? Same thing with other things. So, for example, your surrounding or your stress factor, or with me, for example, with stress factor, right? I did a cold shower every single day. I did this every single day. I did this every single day. So I felt I was focused. I got things done, but I wasn't even close to becoming focused, right? And the same thing is the same thing for you, literally. So I would challenge you guys also to look at all these factors, literally only the two things that we've discussed up till now, and look at literally these two topics. Look at them in your life. Look at how are, for example, distractions or your attention, how is that working? Are you getting WhatsApps, right? Are you getting distracted every single day? So how you basically do it with distractions is you kind of analyze, where do I get distracted on? And usually it's stimulus response, right? So for example, Misha texts me and I get notified by sound or buzz, or my phone starts, etc. And then I respond. So what am I doing here? I am reactive, not proactive. So you want to be proactive. You want to basically become more proactive towards the activities you do. So me right now, I've structured my day in, these are called inbox 0 moments. So inbox 0 literally just means inbox 0. Because inbox 0 is literally where you respond to every single message you currently have in your inbox. That's it. And you pick a few moments throughout the day to do this. Typically best is right. So I, for example, do like first I work from like 7 a.m. till 11 a.m., something like that, maybe more, sometimes till 12. Then after 11 a.m. I have an inbox 0 moment for 30 minutes. Then after 11:30 a.m. I either get back to work or I have a shower or whatever, and I basically eat something usually, right? And then after eating something I get back to work, have like 3 to 4 5 hours of deep work again, and then for like after 12 usually, depending on what type of meetings I have, after 12 have meetings. After 12 have meetings. And the reason being is because meetings are also a form of distraction. You might feel like you're doing something really productive, but you're not building, right? You're not building on your company. You're not building on your goals, right? And of course, meetings are important to communicate with people, but you can also analyze, how are you communicating super effectively with that person? So it's really important to analyze your distractions, and a few things you can actually install are called, you can structure your Google Agenda in this way as well, right? Where you turn off sound, turn on silent mode on your phone, turn off sound on computer, and simply don't open up the applications that you get notified on. Social media, WhatsApp, Discord, Telegram, etc. This is so important, because now I control where my attention goes, right? And what happens is, a lot of people feel like they are productive by, for example, responding to messages, blah blah blah, but they are not building. They are reactive, and then at the end of the day they feel shit because they didn't do shit, right? They only responded to a few messages here and there. So this was basically everything on distractions and attention. Now let's get to sleep. Very, very important. So for your sleep, same thing with the 10-3-1 rule, right? So 10, 3, 2, 1 rule. 10 hours no caffeine before bed, 3 hours no food, 2 hours no drink, and 1 hour no screen or light. But it's also controlling your day. So I'm gonna get to that when I'm going to get to structure. But with sleep, it's also controlling your day, or your evening routine, sorry. So with controlling your day, it's also obviously controlling your evening routine. So evening routine, analyze your chronotype. Chronotype basically means your circadian, I'm not sure if I'm gonna write it right, but excuse me if I don't. Circadian rhythm. Nearly. Also rhythm, wrong. Your circadian rhythm. So that basically means when the best time is to get up plus go to bed for you, and what type of activities to do at a certain moment in your day. So there's some people, 55% of the whole society are bears, and bears basically get up at like 7 a.m., something like that, decently early morning. If they don't work out before 12 a.m., they're probably not going to work out. And if they do, they might do it like later in the night, like in the evening, in regards to, for example, doing it while like after dinner or something like that, for example. Then there's also people that are night owls, right? So night owls are basically like people that basically wake up super early, or sorry, go through the whole night, right? And they sleep really late. But there's also some people called lions, I think. A few other ones there are. And these people are basically people that wake up super, super early, 4 or 5 a.m. And they do a lot of productive work. And then they sleep very early as well. So for you, you can do this chronotype test online as well. I'm going to link a whole bunch of it either below this video or obviously in the to you. And then you can do all the tests, and then you can find out what kind of chronotype you are, and then based off of that also make certain decisions when you work out, when you drink caffeine, when you do this, when you do that. So for example, drinking caffeine isn't really bad for you. I'm also going to quickly type that out real quick. So caffeine isn't bad for you, only bad for you because you don't have control, so you're addicted, right? Or based on the phase you are in. And what I mean with that is you have two phases. You have strategic and you have tactic, if I write that right. Strategic basically means that you have to work on something. So work on learning, work on the business. On the business is different than in the business, right? So strategic basically means you need to work strategically, which means you need to have focus, right? Tactic is basically executing the strategy. So executing the strategy can be calling 10 million people per day, texting 5 million people here, blah, 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 all this different shit. But you have to understand here that if you are working on the strategy, then you can't drink caffeine to be able to create a really good strategy, because you need the clear thinking, the clear focused mind to be able to obviously build the whole strategy and from there execute it through the tactic. This is super important. Then let's see, sleep. A few additional things that you can do is wear blue light glasses after like 8 p.m. or so. 7 p.m. is fine. Don't, and obviously use that 10-3-2-1 rule. Have a wind down schedule, and with winding down I basically mean chilling, right? So for example, reading something, showering, meditation. Schedule out your day, like your next day, either on paper or in a schedule / agenda, right? Then showering, meditation, schedule your next day on paper or in a schedule agenda, right? You can also do I don't know, schedule your day, read something, shower, meditate, prepare your clothes. Oh yeah, journaling, that's also a good one. Journaling. But the only downside to all of this, if you really want to have like an optimized routine, is that you can't, wait, let me just write it down. You can't bombard your head with thoughts, etc., that your mind starts thinking and coming up with new ideas in the evening. You can't allow that stimulus, because then your sleep is shit. Sleep does not mean to say the time you get in bed versus time you get up, but by how much your REM sleep is plus your deep sleep. So REM sleep ideally is anywhere between 1 to 1.5 hours, and deep is sleep ideally between 2 hours and I thought it was 3 or 2.3, something like that. And the difference between REM and deep sleep is REM sleep is mental recovery, super important, and then deep sleep is physical, physical recovery, something like that. So it's very important that with sleep you have certain moments where you, for example, are sleeping, when you have light sleep, when you have dreams, deep sleep, REM sleep, etc. But because all these factors are influenced, the one most important thing with your sleep is sleep quality. And you do that by, for example, winding down, not thinking too much, applying the 10-3-2-1 rule. These are so many different things that are so important. Also, turning off phone notifications, etc. Don't look at anything after X time, 45 to 60 minutes before bed. This is so important. Like literally, if you want to become productive throughout the whole day, like you have to understand sleep is the foundation. So what a lot of people do is they say, oh, I will sleep later because I have a lot to do, right? Or I have these plans or these plans, etc. Then a question that was asked in there in the mastermind as well to a guy who basically said like, well, I want to go out with friends from time to time and blah blah blah, all this, yeah, basically the balance, right? Then what they basically said was, do you have influence in the group of friends you have? And the answer was yes, right? So what happens then is you can decide what you want to do as well, and you can also decide for the group what you want to do. So you can say, hey guys, so I want to go out at X and come back at X. Is it fine to do this once with all of us? And if they don't say yes, they're not as real type of friends as they seem to be, because real friends take you into account, take the things you want to do, and take your routines seriously. And if they don't, it really doesn't matter shit if they're completely different. It's very important that you do understand your own core values. If your core values are to, for example, be more productive, be more efficient with your time, be more efficient with the things you get done, then you have to understand your core values are the key thing to basing everything off of this. Inbox zero, distractions, everything, right? Your productivity, your food, etc. Oh, something I actually forgot to mention here is principles, system, and tests. So data. So first you have to set principles, aka ground rules. No sugar, no caffeine, no bread, aka carbs, no late night snacks, no McDonald's, worst food you can ever eat. Then systems can be the things you basically do on a daily basis. So for example, your diet, routine, everything you basically do after you create your principles. But if you can't say, okay, I'm gonna basically follow the principles I have right here, then systems aren't going to be necessary. Testing, for example, your blood test, DNA test, isn't going to be necessary. That's basically like the test, like data, right? Because off of data, you can make really good decisions because it's actually backed up by proven data, right? So without the principles, you don't get anywhere because you can do all the blood tests and all the DNA tests you want to, but if you can't actually like have the discipline to say no to these things, you're so controlled by the stimulus and response of food as well. So let's get back to this. Your core values, fucking important. I'm going to talk about it in here, but it's so important. Then let's get into understanding yourself. So understanding yourself more in a data type of way. So I'll just add it in here. Understanding yourself data. So with data, you can back up choices and also affirm things you do or don't. And don't do things because it feels right. Doing things because you think it feels right isn't the way you want to go. I know that there's a lot of different ways you may have made decisions before in your life based on your feeling, but at the end of the day, especially with your like health, tracking is the number one thing that will get you moving forward, especially with like sleep, right? So simple question to you, do you know how much REM sleep you've had yesterday without using any apps, any tracking, any devices? Answer is going to be no, right? So that's why data is really, really important. Then in terms of sleep and everything that I'm talking about here as well, the number one tool I would use, buy and advise. Oh wait, we'll actually get into that in a few moments actually. Tools. Then understanding yourself, so data. You can do chronotype, quiz tests online. Based off of that, you can do research based on your chronotype and see what works better for your chronotype at what certain stage of the day, and just experiment for a week or 2 weeks, etc. Because if you feel like you aren't focused right now, if you, for example, have drank caffeine for your whole life, if you haven't had good sleep for months, then it's going to take a while for you to feel the full effect of focus and implementing all these things, because the time it needs for your body to recover and also change is basically the time period between you doing it, like the length of you've been doing it previously, and then like divide that by 2. That's usually what time it takes to recover from the things you've done before, right? So let's say you drank alcohol for a whole evening for like 8 hours straight, 6 hours straight, whatever. It can typically even take 2 times even longer to recover fully, or even longer, depending on how fast your body does it, what kind of supplements you take, what certain things you do in the evening to be able to recover from it, right? But with this, it's really, really important that you understand that if you've been doing one thing for a very long time, it's going to take a while for you to transform to becoming a super productive human being. So let's see here. And just experiment with this for 2 weeks, right? It can also take longer depending on how long you've been doing something for X, Y, and Z time. Then DNA test. You can get a better understanding of more factors. For example, testosterone, right? Super important, right? If you, for example, look at girls, if you, for example, masturbate a lot, like quit that, literally, quit it. Don't watch any porn, no masturbating, etc. It's the biggest masculine thief, or even feminine thief of this age. Just because what happens is with your testosterone is also a form of energy, right? Everything that you see here is a form of energy. Your sleep, your distractions, attention, your food, everything is a form of energy. Also with food, by the way, I do want to add something as well. 30% of your energy throughout the day goes to food. This is super important to understand as well. If your 30% energy goes to really bad food as well, then it's going to be super bad for you to eat a lot of food, because there's a lot of energy that you have throughout the day that goes to food. Let's see, understanding yourself data. So DNA test, understanding, for example, what certain testosterone factors that are super, super important. And especially with this, because at the end of the day, it's just really important, especially with like your DNA test, etc. But you don't need to do a DNA test before you have built up those principles, right? If you don't have the principles, then there's nothing that you can do. And then just accept that you've just been the same as you are right now, and you're going to get the same results, but then don't wish for something better, right? So let's see. Then blood test as well. You can get data-based decisions after doing the tests to be able to make better decisions, get more sunlight, etc. Oh, also I do want to add something in as well in here with sleep. Well, actually I talk about it in here, structure. So structure basically goes over a lot of different factors, right? Goes over your routines, day to day, morning, afternoon, and evening. But it also goes about a lot of different other things. Also goes with food, also goes with your productivity, also goes with the things you basically do, and also how you schedule your day. So what a lot of people do, a lot of entrepreneurs, is they schedule it in blocks, right? This is called deep work. So deep work basically means doing a sort of activity like deep work, not like no distractions, nothing, just the work that you do for X amount of time. Usual deep work blocks take between 2 to 4 hours, depending on the person. And each deep work block can be then structured in themes. And what I mean with themes is, for example, things you need to do: finances, school, even beats, music, family, business, or not business. Make the activity very specific as well. So for example, the theme could be marketing, and then the head theme could be, for example, business. So then it can be structured in themes, and then each theme has its own tasks / to-dos, right? So something that can be a example is, for example, marketing, and then from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. And then to-dos are, for example, make stories, learn about marketing principles, make content, etc. So you have to make sure that you make the tasks very specific as well. And there's a few tools you can use for this. I'm going to share them after the whole talk. But it's very important that you structure everything right. Same thing with your routine, same thing with your days, same thing with everything. So also with, for example, your gym, right? So how you structure your day can be dependent on your day-to-day activities, but also your sleep routine, your chronotype, right? So if you are a night owl, or well, if you're a lion, for example, you get up early, right? start the day early, etc. So the thing is with structure, if you, for example, haven't structured your days, haven't done these things for a long time, then as I said, it's going to be very hard to do this at the beginning, but you have to understand that this is so important. This is so important, because structure basically creates your whole day, creates your whole productivity, creates everything. So if you don't have a structure, you're basically doing something, right? You're basically like throwing mud against the wall, hoping something sticks, right? That's basically what you're doing. Instead of throwing glue balls against the wall and knowing it will stick. So the difference here is mud is basically doing something random, right? Mud can be found everywhere. It can be picked up everywhere. It can be thrown into the area everywhere, and it just falls down. So at the end of the day, you really have to understand that you doing something very specific and very productive is super important. So the next question you might have is how or what? Well, that's something you need to figure out, right? If you don't know how to do it, get a mentor. Consume content online, right? But only in specific targeted work blocks. For example, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. deep work, theme, learning marketing, task, learn marketing psychology on YouTube, and take notes. For example, you can also make it even more specific, where you say take 5 notes, take X, Y, and Z notes, whatever. You can also say find a top 5 mentor list, make a top 5 mentor list, or whatever. Read a book, take notes. Like, the how isn't the thing, it's literally just the doing. You have to do it. So for structure, it's very important that you create structure in your day, but also create a solid morning routine you follow throughout the day as well. You can use certain tools for this, which I'm going to share in a moment. But actually, I'll just share them now. Makes more sense. So you can use a app called Todoist. To-do is basically a productivity, task app that you can integrate with Google Agenda. You can list out tasks based on themes, priority, plus you can schedule them into your agenda in Todoist. And it's very interesting because Todoist basically just creates the kind of all-in-one productivity app. You can structure out your to-dos on a daily basis like this. You can also do Akiflow. Akiflow is basically a tool that integrates Todoist, tasks, shortcuts, and acts as an agenda. This one is paid for $15 a month, so just so you know, but there's other tools as well that I'll just discuss in a second. But these are like 2 tools you can basically use for this, just to use it for productivity. You can also use App Block on your phone, block apps like TikTok, etc., or delete them if you don't use them. And also be honest with yourself. What do you truly use and what do you truly don't use, right? Everything. Then structure also comes down to clearing your desk, clearing your phone, clearing notifications, clearing DMs, clearing to-dos, clearing your to-do list, and turning it into a brain dump list. And from there, giving it structure. Then, clearing is so important because it gives you rest. It doesn't allow you, it allows you to become proactive and not reactive, right? Because if you're reactive, you're basically responding to something, responding to you. So for example, you having a really messy notifications tab, then you'll be more likely to just press on a random notification and then respond to the notification instead of saying, no, I cleared this notification up and I'm not going to respond to this after this time, or I'm only going to do this at this time in the day, right? For example, cleaning your desk, right? If you, for example, feel bored, which can happen throughout the day, then you're going to look around you. You're going to look for some sort of stimuli, right? So for example, porn, consumption online, right, of social media, whatever, maybe even nice food, little things to give you a quick dopamine hit, because that's what you need, right? That's what you feel you need, but you haven't actually felt and witnessed dopamine kicks from a good source, a good type of dopamine, right? And a good type of dopamine is, for example, workouts, doing your to-dos, getting, I don't know, receiving money is even like a quick dopamine hit. It's not even long term. So like bigger dopamine hits, the bigger the dopamine hit, or the harder something is, the bigger the dopamine hit, but also the longer it will take you to get it, right? So it's basically called delayed gratification. So in regards to that, you also have a app called App Block, right? You can basically implement that on your phone. You can also have a little thing on your phone which is called gray screen. It's not an app, it's basically just turning your phone screen gray to make it more boring if you feel like you are consuming a lot of content, right? This is also a very simple one. Then in terms of the next tools, you have a whole bunch of them. You have chronotype test, right? That I would highly recommend everyone do after this. Chronotype test, quiz online. You also have DNA test, blood test, but I wouldn't do this after you build up that base, right? That base of principles that you have. Then I would also recommend you to use a Oura Ring plus the app. It is quite expensive, between 300 to 400 bucks. But if you really are serious about your health and stuff like that, it's a one-time investment, and I would highly recommend you do everything that you can to be able to buy this, just because it's very, very, very good. Then Oura Ring plus app, but you also have sleep tracker. This can literally be an app on the App Store, right? That sleep tracker will allow you to get more insight into your sleep, also with deep sleep, stuff like that. But don't trust it, because it basically does it based on sound. You can use Sleep Cycle if it's still available in your app store, but it probably isn't. So I would recommend you try something else as well. But basically those are the main tools. Let me see, just review a few of these things. Sleep, distractions, attention, yeah. Inbox zero moments. These are like moments you obviously can just schedule throughout your day as a block. I'm also going to show you an example of like my weekly schedule as well. Food, yeah, you can use like tracking apps for food as well. Runkeeper app for tracking workouts, right? You can track a lot without like the ring, but typically the ring gives you a lot of insight into a bunch of stuff as well. So let's come to the last, or the sixth one, sorry, the stress factors, right? So stress factor basically means a factor that implicates stress on your body or mentally, right? So anything to do with, for example, caffeine, workouts, cold plunge, sex, anything that pumps up your heart rate. So let's say you have a busy week. You have one big deadline. Then it's really important to understand here that this big deadline should be put full focus onto. But let's say you read, you do this daily, read 5 pages, meditate, workout, caffeine, 1 to 3 coffees, cold plunge or shower, and you masturbate, then it's like literally a cocktail of shit. Just because you won't get anything done this week, just because your whole attention is basically like here, right? Like you don't have any attention that you put towards here. So the big misconception is that you have to go really hard in all areas to be able to grow and keep that mentality and discipline going. But let's say you only have 100 discipline points in the day and you put 60 in your shit, you only have 40 left. So at the end of the day, if you, for example, want to become super disciplined in one area, you have to understand it in points. It's all like kind of a game in a way, because your HRV, this is so important with your mental productivity. So the more mental clarity, the more ideas, the more growth, the more you do, and the more you grow eventually, right? So this is super, super important. And what I would recommend you do is analyze all your stress factors. Everything that causes you literally a little bit of stress. Analyze it, put it in a document, and then like strip it all down. If you have certain things that you want to put more focus into, or some things aren't working as well as they could have done, then analyze them, strip them down, and just focus on it. Then the SMV, this is really, really important. This is really for you, Misha, as well. Story, mission, and vision, right? So story is everything about you. Childhood, experiences, good and bad, everything, literally everything that shaped you up till now. Personality tests can really help with this, understanding who you are, where you come from, and how you developed. This can be easily understood by asking yourself certain questions. You can find a whole bunch of questions online to ask yourself for like kind of reflection on your life and who you are. You can also do a personality test. You can do a whole bunch of shit to be able to find this. I'll actually like put it in here as well. DISC test, Enneagram, 16 personalities, the big 5. I guess those are the most biggest ones. Then mission is basically everything you obviously want to do, right? So everything you want to accomplish in your life, everything that feels really important to you and you want to basically do. So it's very important to also understand this, because your mission is literally the thing that is kind of like the pain point. It's kind of like the point where it's like your underlying thing that motivates you to do the things you basically do. So a example of this, let me just see where it is. It's basically like a pain point. So pain point based on experience. For example, you worked in 9 to 5, and you didn't like it, so you want to become your own boss. But it can also be deeper than this, because your mission is basically it also kind of like shows through your environment. So everything you do, everything you put out, like the way you, for example, handle certain things, like even the way you walk into a shop, what do you look at, like little things. And the mission is obviously the thing you eventually want to achieve, but the vision is the thing you deserve. So the vision is kind of the byproduct of the mission, and the mission is the more so the execution part, but it's basically based on the pain point. So the pain point of you doing something, the pain point of this or this or this, etc. And the main two things that are super important here is that the story plus mission are in one line. So let's say here you have a whole bunch of experiences where you got beaten to death by your father, and then your mission here is to help people quit their job and live more, or help people with their mental health, for example. Then it's pretty in line, right? Because you had a very bad experience before, which then translates into a mission, because it's a previous pain point based on experience. For example, you worked a 9 to 5, didn't like it. But it can also go deeper than that, right? You feeling not that you're not enough, or you can't do this or you can't do that, etc. But it's really important that these two things are really in line. So your vision is more so the oh yeah, by the way, for the mission, it does not matter what the vehicle is very important. Very important. You don't want this to make it about the vehicle. You want to make sure that you review this, ask yourself questions, understand who you are, what your experiences are, then analyze all those little pain points, and then create them your vision, right? What do you want to do in your life? That is also based on, usually it's based on your previous pain points. Then your vision. Your vision is basically the thing that what you deserve from doing the mission, right? So let's say you want to help 1,000 9-to-5ers make an income online. Then your pain point, or your story, is basically you didn't have it good financially, your parents were struggling and they were not happy, right? Very, very simple example, but this is, yeah, it can basically have to do with this, right? The financial aspect of things. So here, your mission is to help people feel better and not go the same route as your parents, or it can be to earn a lot of money for your family. So usually you do have to understand people are selfish, but at the end of the day, this is basically what it's based on, and the vision is basically what you deserve. So for example, you deserve a lot of money, you deserve this, you deserve that by doing this, right? Like, ask yourself, did Gandhi or did Martin Luther King ever have the mission to make a lot of money? Nope. But their vision is the thing that they deserve. Their mission was the thing they wanted to do, right? Equal rights or whatever. So then the vision is the thing they deserved after. Let's see. Make sure for all of these things that you do this in 1 year time, right? In a 1 year time period. And then your vision is actually the question, what do you deserve? That's basically the truth is. And I know a lot of people like look at the mission or vision in a different way, and you can do it as well. But this is basically the SMV system that I've been using for a long time as well. And obviously this is some good stuff, man. If you really map this out for yourself with good questions, it's very easy to do. Then the BOPE method, right? So at the end or the beginning of your day, depending on when you're most creative, you basically use the BOPE method, which basically means brain dump, right? You brain dump a bunch of ideas into your task software, like for example Todoist, as fast as possible. Then you take time to structure or to organize it, label it by theme plus priority, then plan it. When do you want to do this? And then execute. Then the execute part is the most important part, obviously, because otherwise all these previous steps didn't work. So your like the execute part is all based on all of this stuff. Everything that we talked about right now is all based on execution. If you, for example, want to make 10k a month, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, use this system to figure out exactly why you want to do that, but then also to understand here how you're going to do that. And if you, for example, want to have high execution to be able to make that, then you have to understand you have to have all these other different things in place to be able to get to the execution part. Then let's see. Then you take time to organize it, label it by theme and priority, then plan it when do you want to do this, and then execute, right? So organize is labels per theme. Plan is when do it throughout the week, day plus time. And then execute is doing it. And then the brain dump is time at most productive or most creative time in the day. Oops. Then you have here brain dump, organize, plan, execute. Then the brain dump is dumping all tasks that you can think of on software like Trello, Todoist, etc. Then your surroundings, super important as well. Your surroundings are basically what you become as well. If you, let's say, have a lot of shitty surroundings, people drinking alcohol, sniffing cocaine the whole day, it's more likely that you're going to do it as well, right? So same thing with unconscious surroundings. So what I mean with that is language, for example. So let's say you have people that are a victim and don't speak with ownership, or people that are super negative, then this is something you take with you as well. You can't say that you don't or you do, whatever you do, because at the end of the day it's the same thing what happens with food, right? You put it into your body, what happens then is your body consumes it. So what do you get as input as well? Right, it's all stimulus response. Stimulus is someone who says something negative, who says something that you don't like, who's just not good, right? Then what happens is basically the input. So what happens then after is that the surroundings basically create the things you do or the next task you do as well, right? So let's say your input can also be through your eyes, right? Everything you see. Your eyes are literally the most important factor in your whole human body, because through the eyes you then experience something, you see it for yourself, you see it as proof, and you send certain signals to your brain to affirm it, right? That's how it works. Same thing with you looking at your fucking screen at nice big booty girls and then looking at them and becoming horny, right? The horny is the after effect of the stimulus, right? So it's all stimulus and response, and the response is, as I said, the after effect. So it's really important that you understand this, because your surroundings are literally the same thing with what you smell, what you eat, what you hear, what you see, right? So all your senses, right? Super simple, super important. So what you eat, drink, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste. Very, very, very simple, right? Because at the end of the day, using this as a combination is super important. But you have to become super aware of it. You have to become aware of the fact that just these common senses are important, because your surroundings are all based on senses as well. You can't turn them off, you can't turn them on, right? You can't, because people say, oh well, surroundings doesn't affect me, surroundings doesn't do this, blah blah blah. It does, man. It does in every single way. Your surroundings affect you whether you like it or not. It's all based on stimulus and response. Look at a simple example of you looking at hot guys or girls online and getting horny. Stimulus versus response, right? If you can get horny by looking at a screen, imagine what your surroundings can do, because it has a lot more impact on you, right? So it's very important that you understand this as well. But your surroundings also go like structure, right? So structure is your desk, your phone, your computer, right? If you have a bunch of folders and bunch of documents and whatever all open, then it doesn't make sense for you to become a structured worker. Like, it's not going to make sense at all. So strategic versus tactic, very important. So strategy is the thinking game. Going back to the drawing board, mapping out KPIs, and maybe even reviewing your SMV, story, mission, vision. Then tactic is the action you need to take after the strategy. Implementing and hitting the KPIs. Super, super important that you know the difference between this. So tactic is caffeine. Okay. Strategy is caffeine. No, okay. Because it's really important that you need to have brain space to be able to talk and to think. With strategy, same thing here. What happens is you basically structure it through different ways of looking at it, right? So for example, theme. Let's say you want to make 10k a month, right? And you have the theme of finance, right? Then the theme is finance. The objective is 10k per month, right? Then you sell a product of, like, let's say 1k. Then the KPI is the key performance indicator, make 10 sales per month, right? Then the performance is the thing you actually implement, right? So for example, send X messages per day, do X calls per week. It's important to review this because it's all based on numbers. Same thing in terms of like theme, etc., 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 is, for example, the theme is sports. Then objective is gain muscle lean without overtraining. Then your KPI could be body weight, fat mass, and HRV, right? Heart rate variability. Gain muscle. Okay, then performance, thing you actually need to perform, right, is, for example, be 18 kilos in terms of body fat, like lose 18 kilos, 10% fat mass, and then HRV should be something around that area, right? So then what you can do is basically, or sorry, the KPIs need to be this. My bad. The KPIs are basically structured in like this, and then also in after that, right? Like the numbers plus the topic. Then the objective is gaining muscle weight, blah, blah, blah. And the performance is, for example, 1 push-pull legs, right? 30-45 minutes, 10 to 15 reps, 2 to 3 ice baths, and sauna, eat X calories per day, etc. So it's very important that you also map this out, because it's very, very simple, but also it's also very important. You can literally backtrack this and reverse engineer this based on the goal you have yourself. Then stimulus and response, we talked about it numerous of times. Very, very simple. Stimulus is something that comes from outside, aka input. Response is something that gets triggered, aka inside, aka output. You see hot girl. So it's very, very easy to understand the difference between stimulus and response. It's the same thing with productiveness. So you respond, or you get messages in the morning and start responding is input. Then output is you feel you are productive, wasting time, and you get dopamine. It is output. So even with this example, you're reactive, not proactive, right? So these are very, very simple rules, but it's so fucking important, especially with understanding if you want to actually perform, to be able to understand everything. And I'm going to put all of this in a document or share it with you through Notion or whatever, even below this video in the community, whatever. But it's very, very important that you literally understand this, man. Like if you understand this, you'll become the best motivated productivity beast person you can be, because it's all based on the balance between all of this and using the things that can actually move the needle. And also be honest with yourself. What do you truly use? What do you truly don't use? And what do you truly do? And what do you truly don't do? And also ask the question, what works and what does not work? What do you like right now? What do you hate right now? What does not work? What getting good results? Something like that, right? Same questions, different ways phrasing, but then it can also open up your mind. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, let me know.